You had a vision for your life, a business, a skill, a goal that kept you up at night. In a good way. You were going to be different, you were going to actually do it. And then it didn't work. You tried, you put in real effort, and it fell apart. Maybe it failed once. Maybe it failed 3 times. And now you're sitting there wondering if you were ever meant for this at all. And the worst part? You're this close to quitting. Not because the goal is gone, but because failing this many times feels like the universe telling you something. But what if it's not? You're not weak. You're not delusional for wanting what you want. You know exactly why you started. The vision is still clear. So why does each failure feel like proof that you should stop? Because it doesn't feel like feedback. It feels like judgment. And that's where the real problem lives. There's a researcher named Carol Dweck, a psychologist at Stanford, who spent decades studying why some people quit after failure and others keep going. What she found is that most of us were taught, without anyone saying it out loud, that failure means something about who we are. Not what we did, not what we tried, who we are. She called this a fixed mindset, the belief that your ability, your talent, your potential, it's a fixed number. And every time you fail, the number goes down. So your brain does something cruel. It turns failure into identity. I tried and it didn't work becomes I am someone who doesn't work. And the moment failure becomes identity, quitting feels like self-protection. Your brain isn't giving up on the goal. It's protecting you from the next piece of evidence that you're not enough. That's not weakness. That's just a story your nervous system learned too early. But there's another layer that makes this worse. Andrew Huberman's research on dopamine shows that when we fail repeatedly, our brain recalibrates its baseline for reward. Effort starts feeling heavier. Motivation dries up. And the gap between where you are and where you want to be feels wider, even when it isn't. So now you've got 2 things stacking. A brain that treats failure as identity, and a reward system that's been drained by the repeated effort of almost making it. Of course, quitting feels rational. Of course, stopping feels like the smart move. But it's not the truth, it's the trap. First, separate the result from the identity. Every failure is data, not a verdict. Thomas Edison's lab burned down. He was 67. He watched 10 years of work turn to ash. His response? There goes all my mistakes. Start asking, what did this failure teach me that success never could have? Write it down. Actually write it. Because your brain will not do this automatically. You have to force the reframe until it becomes instinct. Second, track how fast you recover, not how often you fall. Most people measure success wrong. They count the failures. Start counting your recovery speed instead. Did you get back up in a week this time? 3 days? 1 day? That recovery rate. That's your real growth metric. Because the goal isn't 0 failures. The goal is to become someone who fails faster and recovers faster. That's what elite performers actually do. Not fewer mistakes, shorter downtime. Third, zoom out to the pattern, not the moment. When you're inside a failure, it feels final. But zoom out 10 years and almost every "this is over" moment becomes a turning point in the story. J.K. Rowling was broke, divorced, and clinically depressed when she finished Harry Potter. Steve Jobs was fired from Apple. The failure wasn't the end. It was the pressure that forged what came next. Your current failure is not a full stop. It's a comma. At some point, something shifts. Before that point, failure feels like the end. After that point, it still hurts. But it doesn't stop you, because you've built the identity of someone who moves through failure, not someone who avoids it. You know those people who seem unfazed by setbacks, who bounce back like nothing happened? They're not numb, they're not lucky. They just failed enough times and kept going enough times that their brain stopped treating failure as a threat. It became normal, and normal things don't stop you. Like how you don't quit your day because you stubbed your toe. It hurt, but it's not the story of the day. Failure becomes the stubbed toe. Painful. Brief. Part of the process. So no, don't quit. Not because success is guaranteed, not because the next attempt will definitely work, But because the version that's one failure away from the breakthrough, they don't exist in the timeline where you stopped. Keep going, get better at failing, and maybe, somewhere in the mess of it, you'll look back and realize the failures were never the obstacle. They were the whole road